It's bigger. It's louder. It's better than ever. This still isn't your typical motorsports podcast. This is the 10th anniversary of Crush This, a monster truck podcast brought to you by J Concepts. For 10 years, your hosts, the monster truck Canucker Bradshaw and Dan Chichagash, have brought you into the minds and personalities of the monster truck industry. Strap in and hold on tight. This is Crush This!
Hey everyone, what's up? What's going on? It's Cheech again here. This time, thank you for being on another episode of Crush This, a Monster Truck podcast celebrating 10 years of monster truck coverage. Just letting people know about how we are and everything like that with the people in the monster truck industry. And it's pretty cool. But once again, I want to thank J Concepts for being a sponsor for our podcast. Once again, this last Friday, I was at the International Monster Truck Hall of Fame and Museum just for that Friday night. And the vehicle that's behind me here, the Lone Ranger, everything on this truck you can get from jconcepts.com or .net. The 73s, those are made by J Concepts. The rims are going to J Concepts. The body is a Ford Ranger from J Concepts. The chassis itself that's in there is from J Concepts. And then the engines in there are the silent turn 27 turn motors that you can get from jconcepts.net. You can get the exact sounds like a bed, but just body. You get exactly everything. This thing is massive, but it looks exactly like Gary Bauer's Lone Ranger monster truck back in the 80s. Then we also got what kind of be like a modern day truck, but it's a LMT, has the Renegade tires on backwards, Renegade rims, and then also they have the J Concepts Escalade body, which I try to make the white Escalade and Escalade from World Finals 6 or 7. I'm leaning towards 7. And try to do that and stuff like that. But if you go to jconcepts.net and you order some of this stuff, go to the checkout and type in Crush This and get 15% off when you go on checkout. So go to jconcepts.net and get yourself some cool gear. Also, outside the monster truck world too, if you're in the buggies, short course off-road racing, they do this stuff too. So, but with the monster trucks, they love it and everything like that. They just came out, just restocked the 1984 brick nose body. That is the 10.5 length body. Just came back out with that too. So go to jconcepts.net for your awesome RC monster truck needs. That's some pretty cool stuff. Also, go to our spread shop. Crush This, a monster truck podcast, myspreadshot.com. Get some cool merch. We got some old ones. New ones are going to be coming up here. I think we're probably going to do for next. Oh, look at that. Look at that already. Brad's on top of that. That's going to be a t-shirt right there. That surprised me right there and there. That is some pretty cool stuff. I would wear that to a NASCAR race. Oh, wait. Anyway, so go to our spread shop and get some cool gear just like that and help us out with the podcast, keep it running, do more stuff like that too. Want to give a quick shout out to Monsters Monthly. They just uploaded the or did the episode with our last week's guest, Faith Preed. Just go there. If you don't go have anything on iTunes or Spotify, go to monstersmonthly.com and go ahead and listen and do all that cool stuff too. But right now we are gonna do one more commercial. And we're gonna talk a little bit before we get Drue on. We're gonna have Brad on here too. Kind of big deal last weekend. You probably want to talk about his favorite driver of all time retiring, um, calling it quits, being the 16-time champion. Not a lot of people could say that, and go from there. But uh, once again, thank you for everyone that's being on. Also, for me, did some RC racing and did pretty well over there at CRC Hobbies in Peoria, Illinois. Ran that for on Sunday, and then, like I said, we were at the uh, Hall of Fame Friday night. But also want to have thank our sponsors here, and we're gonna have a sponsor video here with Monster Truck Attitude Downhill Diecast Monster Truck Racing. So we're gonna have that on right then, and then we're gonna have a little bit of Brad want to talk about, you know, something really mean for his heart. We're just to let out the retirement of John Force. And then we're gonna have Drue on for about 5 minutes left of the program, and then we'll end it. And maybe not 5 minutes, maybe like 5 seconds. All he has to do is say hi, and then we'll just turn it off and leave. No, I'm just kidding. We're not gonna do that, but we're gonna say thanks to our sponsors and then go from there. So here we go.
Are you ready to get in on the action here on the Monster Truck Attitude YouTube channel? Look no further. Head over to Facebook where you can sign up for all the great events we host right here on the MTA YouTube channel. Be sure to sign up for the events and register your name and get locked in with a monster truck of your own and get ready for the great thrills and spills right here on the MTA YouTube channel. Again, find us on Facebook, register for these events, and you soon will be competing in all the great events. We hope to see you there, and get ready for the wild and crazy action. Be sure to subscribe and turn on all notifications so you don't miss a beat right here on the Monster Truck Attitude YouTube channel.
All right, Brad, some big news this weekend. I know you probably want to touch on that before we put Drue on, but the retirement of John Force.
Yep, it's difficult to talk about in a way because just like a lot of people growing up, they were fans of Dale Earnhardt or fans of Jeff Gordon or NASCAR stuff. I wasn't a NASCAR kid. I was an NHRA kid, growing up. That was monster trucks and NHRA drag racing. And as soon as I laid eyes on this car right here, the Castro GTX Oldsmobile, this car right here made me an instant fan. This is actually from a Mac Tools box set my parents got me for Christmas one year. It had all his 25th, 50th, 75th, and 100th win cars, which I still keep. I always have them displayed, but it's well deserved. His retirement. It's unfortunate the circumstances that happened. Leading up to his retirement, the crash last year in, I think it was Virginia. It's still hard to think about that. Even just in drag racing in general, there's not going to be anybody with the last name Force racing next year. Brittany Force is taking some time off to start a family. So for the first time in, I don't even know how many years, we don't have anybody with the last name Force in competition in NHRA. John's still going to be around as an owner and, trying to get sponsorships for his teams. But I wanted to share a picture. This was 2005, Bristol, Tennessee. And there's me and my family. And I wish the picture wasn't blurry, but it is what it is. It rained that day. We were only in Bristol for one day visiting. We were visiting some family that I had in Tennessee, and we went down to Bristol for one day. And unfortunately, that day it rained. What did I do? I sat my ass on a raincoat right in front of his pit almost all day because I wanted to meet the man. I met other drivers that day. I met Eric Medlin, rest in peace. Cruz Pedregon, who I still am mad about 1992. If you know, you know.
Champion.
Yeah, the only championship John Force didn't win in the 90s. But after 93, he went on a tear after that. After that champion, he lost that championship. The hamburger stand from hell, he called that McDonald's funny car. I got that. I still remember meeting John and just that moment, like growing up, watching the man do his thing, and like I said, I didn't get to see him race, and I'll have the same feeling I have when it comes to Tom Meents and Dennis Anderson, never getting to see them compete. I'll always regret that. It's there's certain people, like I said, you look at a guy like by the name of Dale Earnhardt, legend, icon. That's John Force for me, and he will be missed. And like my fandom, like I bought this from a box set at a flea market, and it came with a toolkit, all pro bumper to bumper kit. I have so much John Force memorabilia. He's going to be missed, and I wanted to bring that up. Also, I wanted to bring up this. If you guys want to see stuff like this, let us know what you guys want for merch. I'm messing around with a lot of 3D modeling these days, and I wanted to make this design for a shirt, like the old NASCAR shirts. If you want to see more like that, let us know. Let us know what you guys want to see for merch. It makes us easier to know what you guys want, so we can create that stuff and get it out to you guys. So whatever kind of merch you guys are wanting, hats, shirts, anything that we can do through Spreadshop, let us know. We want to create some really cool designs for you guys. And this is just the start. The Crush This Race team, number 30, the number 36 Ford, and the number 28 Ford, and yes, that is the Penske font, just edited a bit. So, yeah, but John Force is going to be missed, man. It's going to be do it for Jimmy shirts. Okay, I'll make it. But it's going to be weird not seeing, John Force back in, his usual self. There's so many good, I think, forget the guy on YouTube, but he has a video series, The Best of John Force. Watch that. Laugh your ass off. The man was a pure entertainer, and he's going to be missed.
Well, that's, had to let it out for this big news and stuff like that, which I mean, I'm a John Force fan too. I mean, but, there's always going to be, people here and go. And, with him leaving, he has one that is filling in his shoes, and his name's Austin Prock. So, don't get me wrong with Fast Jack Beckman, but, he's cool, but Austin just won back-to-back championships.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's giving the lineage and continuing on. John Force is 16 time, but the whole team, I think, is what, 20.
I don't even know what it is anymore.
23.
Like, yeah, like you look at Austin Prock's, last two seasons. Before that, he, had one win in a top field dragster in Seattle when John won his 150th, which was still one of the best interviews. John dropping F-bombs like it's nothing. It was one of the coolest interviews he's ever done. But you look at just the success of that team and the domination. I think they broke the all-time wins record in a season this year, and the closest to them was Matt Hagan in the TSR funny car. So it's going to be interesting to see what's happening next season. There's possible rumors of another John Force funny car out there. Josh Hart's moving from his own team to the John Force team, replacing Brittany. So next year is going to be an interesting year for the NHRA. New tracks added, but it's exciting to be a racing fan these days.
Right on. And then, so that's kind of a big deal. And, what's up, Corey? Hey, Dad. So, like I said, I did the RC racing and stuff like that this year, Sunday. Did all right. Got a little feel for it in the carpet and stuff like that, and that was pretty fun. Towards the second round of racing on Pro, I made to the third round, and this sucker right here was the truck with 73s, short wheelbase, was turning like everything was going on. It caught me off guard that I screwed up. But it is what it is. But we're gonna have someone that we found him on in a Brucey's gas station Fucking bum. Excuse my French.
No,
kidding.
I thought you found him over in an underpass somewhere.
Yeah, near Brucey's. Anyway, no, we didn't. But this guy was started with where I was working at for Monster Jam, and was when we was with them for the first year of it, and then saw him off and on, and then this year, in I think April or May, he joined we became teammates again with Hall Brothers Racing, and he's been doing pretty well. He's already been doing all sorts of stuff, displays. Actually, not a lot of shows to be honest with you, but he's been doing a lot of displays himself. So that says a lot. And doing the ride trucks and stuff like that, but still having them along and doing stuff at the shop and whatnot. But and it's pretty cool having them along here. But we're gonna hear a story here, and it's gonna be right now. Here he is, the guy that they call Mankind, not the wrestler, which is named after the wrestler, but yeah, here he is, Drue Epler. There we go, guys. Thank you for coming back.
Oh, that's great.
Well, it was great, guys. I'm gonna. Thanks for taking all the time in the world with me. I'll head on out.
Your story was so inspirational, man. I'm crying right now. You overcame so much adversity.
If I inspired one person, that's all that matters.
That's the best.
Oh my goodness. What up, buddy? How you been?
I've been all right. Just out here in Central Illinois now.
Yeah, buddy. So let's go back. You've been. We always ask about to everyone. Now, were you always a fan of monster trucks? And when you were, do you remember the first show you went to? What got you in the monster trucks? And believe in the Beaver, Levi Jones. But what got you into it and stuff like that?
Well, my earliest memory of a monster truck was probably like I grew up in northeastern PA. Geisinger Medical Center, big hospital up in that area, had a telethon. I was tiny, and I don't even remember what truck it was. It, on all honesty, being from that area, it was probably PA Mountain Monster. But I can remember at this telethon seeing a monster truck sitting on a couple crush cars just on display. I don't know the year. I don't know how old I was. It's just this fuzzy memory. Obviously, by then, a couple years later, I remember my first monster truck show that I remember seeing was the 1990 Bloomsburg Jamboree. And for the longest time, that was the only show I would go to, was the Bloomsburg Jamboree. It was the only one that really anybody in my area really knew about happening. I grew up in a small area, so my dad wasn't going to drive me an hour over here to Harrisburg to see a show, or an hour to the Bryce Jordan Center. It was just Bloomsburg is all I had. A couple years later, my mom needed a babysitter. I know this is a weird part. Mom needed a babysitter. My sister had this friend who said, "Oh yeah, I can babysit him." That friend of my sister's was Amy Rarig, which was Kid Rarig's daughter, and she would babysit me at the shop. So very early 90s, when Thunder Chicken was still in its prime, I was crawling all over it as a crazy ADHD 6-year-old. That's really what got me into it. Was like, this is cool, this is awesome, this is really cool, this is what I want to do. And I mean, you can, like, I got some lifelong friends that are like, yeah, he's always been wanting to do that monster truck thing. And I was just a fan of it for long time, but I knew I wanted to do it. So I took the steps with getting some technical education, getting a CDL, driving a semi for a little bit. And in my mid 20s, I was like, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. So that's when I took the step and went to a local independent who flat out told me they have no budget. They then got me in touch with people at Feld, who that day I still don't know who I talked to, but I ended up going to work for Feld Motorsports and acquired the nickname Mankind. And a few years later, met our beloved Cheechers.
So mentioning that you grew up going to Bloomsburg is insane, because growing up, like, that was one of my favorite events on Trucks and Tractor Power. How was it growing up going to that show? And did you realize how important that venue is to monster trucks?
I mean, I was 6, 7, 8 years old. Of course, I had no idea how important it was to this industry, or even what a pen to point series was. I just remember sitting my butt on TNN Trucks and Tractor Power to watch all those races, and then that one weekend a year, usually it was my mom's birthday, which she loved that. I would get to go to Bloomsburg and watch them race. Growing up seeing Fred Schaefer barefoot, the Kurt Dabney with Overkill. Well, and it was even Nightmare before that. Seeing our bosses running the Executioner in its different colors. Obviously the Bigfoot trucks. Andy Brass, Dan Runny, Colt Cobra. Seeing all those trucks that I could see on TV as a young fan, seeing them in real life. And at the Jamboree, it's not like most shows. You can walk right through these trucks. So, I'm 6 years old, able to walk up to this truck and touch it and see how they take tires off to load them up at the end of the show and things like that, and see them working on it. It was, I don't really know how to explain it, but it really hit me and sunk in. That's why with Bloomsburg being my main show and growing up to shows like that, that's why the Jamboree series in my career, and by the time I was able to get to the Jamborees as my career, it was at the time Lima, Bloomsburg, and Indy. Getting to at least one of the Jamborees was always very important to me.
So you get your education, you get your CDL. Do you remember the time when you put your application in, or you send your email to Feld, and you got that call, and now you're ready to take the big leap? You already had some road training and stuff like that. You went to, I think, Snyder. So you go there, and do you remember the email or the phone call talking to you about that, and seeing it, when the possibility for you to head to either North Carolina or Florida?
So I never sent an email out to initiate conversations. Like I said, I went to a local independent. I went to the Slifkos with Eradicator and Backdraft at the time. And Jeremy and Andy just told me, we don't have any kind of budget to bring someone in, but we know somebody. And they called somebody up on the phone right then. And like I said, I still don't know who it was. And I talked to them on the phone for about 10 or 15 minutes. He says, I like what you hear. I want you to call my boss on Monday morning. And so I called Henry before I ever sent an email. I talked to him. We discussed, what he was looking for, what I wanted to do. I told him, I'm like, I've never thrown a wrench at any of these trucks. I've got a CDL, so I can drive a hauler up and down the road safely. And I worked from 18 to 21 before I got my CDL. I worked in a shop a little bit. So it was then through that chain that I sent him my resume, and it took a long time to get hired on at the company. I think it took 8 months. But I do remember when I finally got the call saying, hey, we got a start date for you. You're going to North Carolina.
So how was that? Because getting that call and I just want to also ask what kind of era would have this been like late 2010s, like what era were you starting around this time?
This is I initially reached out to Henry in November of 2011. Um, November, December of 2011. I didn't move to North Carolina until, funny enough, we just mentioned Bloomsburg. The weekend of the Bloomsburg Jamboree, I missed that year because I was moving to North Carolina. Um, when I got that phone call, I was in a semi. I was doing local pickup delivery work, and I was so excited. I was glowing for the rest of the day. I got in there, and a couple of the other drivers knew what I wanted to do, and next day I said, "Hey, here's my notice. I'm sorry, I'm moving. I'm going to North Carolina doing it."
So you get ready to do your thing with Monster Jam, and you got yourself with a pretty cool crew with Woos as the third guy, Cole Venard in Gravedigger Legend, and then Captain America with Chad Fortune. And you got yourself into that as a crew chief. But how did you get into pretty much the last gravedigger that was built under the Dennis Anderson lineage?
So, I did my first quarter of 2013 at this point, with Cole, Woos, Adam, and Chad. Um, after Vegas, it was known that the truck that I was focused on, which was Captain America, was getting sent overseas for, I think that year was Abu Dhabi and the European shows. There wasn't much for me to do. The While all that was going on, one of our other guys that worked at the shop, Travis Howard, he was the one that did the restoration on the Gravedigger ride truck and needed a hand with that over the summer and needed somebody with CDL. So I was like, well, at the time there were some of us there that had active CDLs. So I was like, sure, I'll do the ride truck thing. So I spent the summer with him. We did, I think it was called Path of Destruction. It might not have even been called Path of Destruction yet. Which was the summer stadium shows. Then we did the Speedway tour, which was Hagerstown, Stafford Springs, not West Level, West Salem, no, and Eldora Speedway. When we got back from Eldora, Travis was looking to get out of it and go home. Because I spent all summer with him, I was pretty much already trained to just, I had the CDL. I could hop in the rig and go. And I had all the training with the ride truck, so it just worked out that way. And when it was brought up, I didn't have the most confidence on myself as a crew member at the time. So I just said, hey, I want to take over the ride truck, and learn more. Not just on the ride truck thing, but I still want to work on trucks and learn and get more confidence in myself as a crew chief or technician.
And I think around this time, the Florida shop hadn't been around at all. I don't think so. I think it was just North Carolina and by Chicago. How was it, being around, the Gravedigger shop, the dungeon, because to fans, that is like Indy, the Brickyard. Like that is like one of the places, if you're a Monster Truck fan, you got to go to the dungeon. How was that the atmosphere around there, around that time? Because there was a lot of things happening with Monster Jam around the 2012, 2013 era. So how was all that?
It's North Carolina in July. It was hot. But no, the atmosphere at the shop, as you're working as a mechanic in a place people go on while they're on vacation. So we've all seen the pictures of the Digger's Dungeon shop, 2 front bay doors up all the time. There's always people there. So it really helped you as a crew guy being able to interact with the fans more naturally with them seeing you work. And if your truck's right at that bay, I mean, they're asking you questions, and you're pulling a corner apart, you're taking a champagne off, you're dropping a new motor in. At the time, they were expanding the shop too. So we had the main shop in the front, but they were also building a much larger shop in the back. So seeing the industry and the team and the company at the time grow like that, it was really cool. It took me a while to figure out how big this actually was. Because growing up, well, I mean, even going to work there, I didn't know anything about Feld Entertainment. I didn't know they owned the circus. I just like, hey, cool, I'm gonna go. I'm finally getting to go work on monster trucks. I didn't know, I guess, as much as people do now.
Oh, Cheech, you there?
No.
Are you falling asleep, buddy?
Huh?
You falling asleep? You want to ask the next question?
Yeah, yes. No, it's just Mandel with that microphone is nice and smooth like an ASMR. Fudge.
That's a Super Trucker headset.
He has a very, very like during the talk, he's like smooth and calm and collected. Like he sounds like one of those okay, I'm not bullshitting.
Is that one of those
asleep?
Is that one of those blue parrot headsets?
I fell asleep. I was like,
I saw you
talking. Mandel's talking, and I'm like,
you're like this. You're like this. You're like this.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. It's that microphone, but you sound smooth and calm like a radio operator or a dispatcher.
Wait. Maybe we found his second career.
Oh my gosh. So anyway,
it's those blue parrot headsets. Those things are good.
Oh my god. Yeah, see that just noise and stuff. Shit.
Oh my
anyway,
goodness.
I knew he was talking about how he, Travis retired and got back on again in that ordeal. But when I joined, I was kind of late 2014, and I was with a team, but quite frankly, the team, I'm not mentioning any names, but people may not know, were somewhat stubborn, and they had something to prove on working on their trucks to a point where, a fan like me, super fan type deal, shouldn't be here. So they would try to take as much as they could or volunteer me to do whatever that needs to be around. And we did this Gravedigger block party at someone's house for 102.5 the Bones or something like that in Florida. And there was a house party going on there. And we brought the Gravedigger ride truck. I helped Drew. Kind of the first experience of doing so. We went ahead and, did our gig, and then we went on after Tampa to do our, the rest of the season. And I caught back up with him during Monster Jam. He had other things going on. He had a family member that joined the team, and the guy who was running the BKT ride truck wasn't having fun with that. But that's another thing. But anyway, so the summer comes along, and I get offered, hey, can you help, with the ride truck and stuff like that for the summer tour, which was that time Hagerstown, Stafford Springs, and Eldora Speedway. We didn't do West Leb because West Leb had their own ride truck. It was in the works. The owner was thinking about doing 2 ride trucks, but no, they cut us out. So I was on a road trip with Mandel, and the first time, riding along in the Volvo truck and all that stuff, and it was a pretty cool experience. I was not as mature or not as knowledgeable now, that I was back then because I was still being a fan and stuff like that. And so I mean I was not the greatest, and I'll be the first one to go that, but still me and Drue learned about each other in the summer months. But for Drue, with learning about that, you had the unique opportunity to do stuff still the old school way. A lot of times during Feld, it's the crew guys jumping on an airplane, flying to every destination. Drivers do the same thing. Well, we were the crew, you were the driver of the ride truck, but we were still doing the old school way of life. So how was it being going to Florida and still kind of being that guy in the middle void where they have other jobs, you're doing this one job that three people do separately during the racing season?
It was, well, I mean, I moved to Florida when the Florida shop opened. I was kind of part of the second wave. I wasn't part of the Chicago crew that went down. I remember the Normans, Christian and Phil. I think they were on the first group from the Carolina shop that moved down to Florida, which made a lot of sense because they were from Florida. For me, at the time, I was dating someone that lived down there, and I, brought up to her, I'm like, hey, how far from, Bradenton do you live? And she says 20 minutes. I was like, well, when she basically said, well, make it happen. Come on down. I'm like, all right. So I went down there, and going into that building was a change. It went from being outside most of the time or being there where fans kind of interacted to going through a security gate like you would at a factory. It was a change, but taking over that ride truck full time, that first quarter I ran just like any of the other crew guys. I flew, from Tacoma to Anaheim, Anaheim to El Paso, El Paso to Detroit. I followed what is, what was the normal then and is the normal now for Feld crew guys. But when I took over the ride truck, like Cheech said, I kind of went back to an old school way of doing things where we drove the rigs show to show. It would usually be me and a ladder guy, whether it be, like Cheech helped me out in the summer. One year I had my nephew, I got my nephew hired on the company to help me out during first quarter. And then they hired someone else my very first year run it where he would fly with or drive show to show with me. For me, it was more natural being that I spent so much time driving a semi over the road. And I mean, I'll be honest, I'm a very nervous flyer. I don't like flying. So, hopping in the rig and dealing with the hurdles and headaches that you deal with driving across the country it was more natural for me to deal with it than, oh, your flight's delayed, or, oh, we lost your luggage. Lose your luggage. I was like, I don't know what to do now. Hey, the interstate's shut down because of an accident. Oh, cool. There's my atlas. Find a new route. Boom. We keep rolling. It was also weird, rolling into shows like the World Finals being in Vegas every year. I was generally be the first crew guy to roll in. Sometimes even beating the office staff in there. I'd roll in there with, not only would I roll in there with the ride truck, but I had the extra space, so I would carry in, maybe some parts, maybe some pallets or totes of office supplies, because they would turn Sam Boyd Stadium into almost like a little army camp of Monster Jam, where there was a full, like, everything that would happen at the shops, whether it be administrative or mechanical, happened at that stadium parking lot.
Oh, wow. One question I have, and this is kind of for both you and Cheech. So, Cheech, you mentioned that you were on the ride truck with Drew. Is this where this picture comes from? Was your time together? I've always loved this picture because you have an oh shit look on your face, and I can tell you are pedaling as hard as you can. And Drew's just in there is like, I'm gonna crush your ass. So talk about, I want both of you to talk about that picture in particular and just the shenanigans you guys had. Because that is my favorite. You're a dick. No, just talk about that the picture and kind of, you know, the shenanigans you guys would do, because you got to keep yourself entertained somehow.
With the ride truck, we didn't have a quad like all the other race trailers had. So I found that on
The beer wagon.
I think it was Craigslist. Yeah, it was this adult 3-wheel tricycle, had a basket in the front, a basket in the back, and I was like, that's perfect. I had that thing in the trailer for 1 year, and the shenanigans that went on with that thing, chasing Cheech with the ride truck. It wasn't. I know how it looks. It looks like I'm gonna run him over and I'm chasing him, but really we're just taking the ride truck stuff back to the trailer. You know, I one of the race drivers at one of the shows got a hold of the thing and was doing wheelies on it. That stupid thing was the biggest pile of junk. I don't know how nobody died on it, because it had brakes at one point and then the brake cable broke, and I don't think I ever fixed them.
You know, listen here. We had that thing running around at 3:00 in the morning in Hagerstown, Maryland. And just driving around, they're working. We were lucky enough to get Ukraines on that thing. We got Ukraine tires on the ride truck. And then, so the story with that photo, really pretty much, we were at Stafford Springs, Connecticut. We were, I remember that clear as day because Pablo had a 2-wheel bike or a quad. Anyway, I drove and I took a lap around the track, gave the Pablo, and the track official comes over and says, "You can't drive around there." And Pablo's like, "I'm just testing out the carburetor." And I needed to do it. And he was short enough to ride it. And so, Pablo, thank you for bailing me out. But, you know, dang well, that was just driving around the racetrack. Anyway, so where we were giving rides on turn 1. So in Stafford, pretty much that racetrack is in the middle of a housing development, suburb, pretty much. But the front straightaway was pretty long, and the back straightaway is decent. Front straightaway was long enough where the focus of the show was the center of the track, and where we were at, we were just about maybe not half a mile, but just a little ways away. But it was the entrance of turn 1. So when he was backing up, the ride truck was in an angle. So we had to use like rubber stop mounts and stuff like that. So his truck wouldn't roll or anything like that. So just for safety reasons. And we'll put stuff in there for ticket collecting and stuff like that. And that's where the beer wagon was going. So before showtime, obviously with the bike and him, if he had the ride truck and just drove normal, he would be gone before I know it. Well, he needed a guiding point. Well, that's me with the beer wagon. So I started taking off and panel as fast as I can. One of the tech officials, her name was Cammie, she thought it was so funny that she took a picture of us going through the thing. And that was the picture itself right there of me trying to hurry up and see. There we had the cooler. We had there's the blocks right there on the front of the cart. So he's just making his way back town, watching fast.
I could just see I
Can't
could see
stand
like
it.
the look on your face. You are pedaling as hard as you could go.
That thing scooted. I think we lost brakes on that and Eldora. But Eldora was still another one because we were there. So it was a useful thing. But it was pretty cool though, because Eldora though, I don't know how this worked, Drew, because I remember clear as day that you, Jackson Suits, and Josh Dyke rode motorcycles from the Paxton shop to Eldora because I had to drive Josh's black Ford just in case someone broke down to be an emergency vehicle. And I think when they went back, you put the bike back in the trailer and they put their 2 bikes back in the Ford truck and drove back. I'm just wondering, I think we leave the truck and trailer at Eldora and then we rode with someone to, I don't know how the hell that happened, but I remember clear as day that I was basically driving the black Ford behind you three because you had the cop bike while they had 2 Sportsters and a Softail.
Yep, that was no, obviously you were there, so that was the same year. No, we had to go to Paxton. We had to go to the Paxton shop first and pick some things up. And that's where we met up with them. They rode their motorcycles. I drove the rig out to Eldora. And you were driving Josh's truck. It was when we got to Eldora, I left the rig at the racetrack and rode my bike back and forth to the hotel. It was, that was another nice thing about the ride truck. I would take my bike with me pretty often.
I remember also you and Chad Fortune rode too.
Yep, we
that Ninja.
Well, that's part of the thing. I was going down to Florida after Eldora, and that was during the time that the Chicago office was shutting down, and a lot of the office staff were moving down, and Chad was like, "Hey, if you have room," I'm like, "If I have room, yeah, I've got room." So we put both bikes in the trailer, along with a bunch of things from the office were under the ride truck in the trailer. And we just took everything down to Florida. I have a picture somewhere of, the 2 motorcycles sitting in the trailer, because I would just go right in the side door with my big, I had a big Harley Road Glide. It's a 800-pound motorcycle. It's not like a little Sportster that I have now. But, go in the side door, strap it down, and, pack things around it so nothing would get hurt, or especially my bike. My bike was my pride and joy. I didn't even have a car at that time. I just was living in Florida. I'm like, I can ride a motorcycle everywhere, and I can do it every day if I want.
So,
Go ahead, Cheech.
Yes. Yeah, we got to throw a commercial in here, Brad. And let me go back and let you guys know we're gonna throw a commercial here, and then we're gonna have Brad on to ask this question here for Drew, and we'll be right back.
And we are back. We'd like to thank both J Concepts and Kobe Morse with MTRC for the continued support of the podcast. Drue, so you were with Monster Jam for quite a long time. You were there. I forget how long you were there for, but eventually you made your way down to St. Louis, Missouri, and joined Team Bigfoot. Talk about how that transition kind of all happened.
So I spent 4 years with Monster Jam, and then in summer of 16.
Summer of '69.
Oh my goodness, that was great, Cheech. That was good. That's one of the best things that you've done on this podcast, like just little ad libs in a long time. Good job, my friend. Good job.
In summer of 16.
69.
Damn it, Cheech. Some things in my personal life were going on. My dad, who was still doing cancer treatments, he fell, broke his wrist, had to have surgery on it. I also wanted a bit of a change on my end of things, as far as what I was doing. So I took a step away from the industry to kind of help my dad out, or try to run my own trucking company, which was an amazing failure on my part. Don't do that. I ended up about a year and a half, 2 years later, I ended up wanting to get back in the industry, and I called Mike Vauders up. I said, "Hey, Mike, what are you doing?" He goes, "I'm looking for help. What are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, I'm looking for a job." So I ended up going to work for Vauders for about 9 months. Learned a completely different way of doing the monster truck stuff with him, going from basically having an unlimited budget to having a much smaller budget that an independent operates on. And I learned so much from that man, in aspects to this industry and how to keep a truck going. You don't always have to have the newest, most up-to-date thing on your truck. You can run with stock parts and it will work just fine. He I went from working for him full time, and about 5 months into it, I stepped back part time to deal some personal things in my life. I still work for him part time. He ended up letting me drive for him. He let me drive Iron Warrior show in Honesdale, Pennsylvania, and it really kickstarted it back into me that this is my passion. I love this stuff again. I need to get back into it full time. About a month or so later, Bigfoot put a post up that they were looking for someone to do displays and crew on trucks. And I tried with Bigfoot about 2 or 3 times in the past, and it never came to fruition. Well, this time it did. I ended up talking with Bob Trent at the Bigfoot organization. I was working full time driving a dump truck and part time still doing monster trucks. Well, I had an interview lined up. I was like, okay, I'm taking some time. Told my boss, hey, I'm not gonna be in Monday. Ran out to St. Louis, had my interview, and I left that interview thinking that the interview went okay, that they probably have somebody that's more qualified for the position. And about 3 or 4 days later, they reached out with an offer, and I'm glad they did, because as I was walking out of the interview, I lost my job with the dump truck company. So I ended up again packing my stuff up, moving to St. Louis. Ended up moving in with the Norman brothers initially to get on my feet and kind of into the groove of a new way of doing things. I loved my time at Bigfoot. When I was at Bigfoot for a year and a half, I was able to do, I did a lot of displays for Firestone tires. I even did quite a few displays with Hot Wheels for the Legends Car Shows in 2019. I got to do the inaugural, first few shows of the inaugural Hot Wheels Monster Trucks Live domestic tour. And then in very early 2020, I got to take part of the entire international tour for Hot Wheels Monster Trucks Live. And while we were over in Europe during that time, about February, we started hearing things about this thing called COVID or coronavirus 19. We were like, okay, I'm not sure what this is. It's, we hear every year or every couple of years, oh, swine flu, bird flu, we hear about that. Never really affects us day to day. I remember we finished up our last show in Glasgow, Scotland, and flew home. We got home, and I immediately, went over the hauler and stuff, got ready to go. I went down to Texas to do some more Firestone displays, and kind of keeping a track on. And about my second week down there is when stuff in the U.S. started kind of going crazy. I started hearing it more and more in the news, this, that, about it. And while I was down there, I had to run to the store for something. And that's when I realized that things were really getting weird, getting serious, when I couldn't find toilet paper in a store and there wasn't a snowstorm coming. I realized that, oh, this is definitely something serious that's going to affect us coming up here very soon. The next day, my display was canceled. Or, well, not canceled. I was supposed to do, typical Firestone grand openings were Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And they said, hey, you're already here. You're already booked for it. It's already confirmed and all that. Why don't you just do your display Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and head home? And I talked over with my boss, and they're like, okay, that's what they want. We'll do it. So we did our display, and I loaded up and went home. Got back in the shop. Monday was like a normal day working. Tuesday, things got kind of weird. And Wednesday, we were furloughed. With the thinking, we're all coming back to this. I left. I remember, Bob Trent, my boss there at Bigfoot, he told me, he's like, here, take our van. Your Jeep sucks to drive on the road, which it did. It still is a glorious pile of junk to try and drive down the highway. But I left with the Bigfoot van, thinking, 2 weeks flatten the curve. And 2 weeks turned into a month. And this was, at that point, beginning of March. March, April, May, June. I think it was finally June, in this, I stayed in contact about what was going on. It was, what's going on? So I ended up taking the van back, getting my Jeep. And that was my last time at the foot shop for a couple of years, until one of their open houses a couple of years later after everything cleared up. I never gave up. I always thought the phone was going to ring to go back. And it was something I didn't give up. About 3.5, 4 years into it was when I finally was like, okay, maybe I'm not going back. Started kind of settling into a normal life. I was working for United Rentals, doing my thing, and bumped into my current bosses at a truck stop of all places.
I wanted to share this picture. I was, while we're doing this, sometimes I browse Facebook and find pictures. I started finding the picture of Cheech and you, but look at this guy. All ready to go. And you were hired at the same time as Mike Miller, which is actually a really cool thing, because I got to meet Mike at a display here in Grand Prairie, and that event was the first time I was the only guy that he trusted out of the people there to run the RI, and it was my first time ever doing it. So Mike, if you ever watched this, thank you, because that was such a cool experience, and I've gotten to do it again since then. So thank you.
Yeah, we got hired. I know it wasn't the same day. I think he got hired maybe a week or two after I started. He came in as an experienced race driver, having driven with the Hall Brother organization, and went right into one of the older foot trucks. I came in, was doing the displays. When I started my first day at Bigfoot, show up at the shop, go take a drug test, came back from the drug test, hopped in a rig with Larry Swim, and cross country super trucking we go to go to a show in California, and I think we ended up doing a display out that way too. So when I came back, Mike was already there at that point.
So you go ahead and also you had experience. Well, I think it's before Bigfoot that you got a chance to drive one of his trucks. It was an unfortunate one. You destroyed the. It was if you watch the YouTube video, he just destroys it and it just gone and the wheels come off and the cage is gone. The body's falling off. The motor left the chat, and none of that is true. And excuse me, he did. Talk about your time. That short form of driving, but still an experience that still is pretty cool to talk about.
You talk about my lovely attempt at driving. So summer of 18, I think. At this point I was working part-time for Mike. Matt, Cody, and his wife Katie were expecting to birth their first child. It was kind of a planned, hey, he's not going to make the show, and Mike was nice enough to give me a chance. Never driven anything with more power than a ride truck, so I had a feeling of the size, but I had absolutely no idea how much horsepower I was getting involved with. As a crew guy, yeah, that's a big nasty blower motor. You rev it, it goes wow, but to actually be strapped in the truck, the visibility, limited visibility because you can't move around and see, I was intimidated. I never hit a set of cars before with any kind of power. I idled up onto a car already at pit parties and whatnot, but never hit one with the intent to catch air. So there is, like Cheech said, check it out on YouTube. But there is a YouTube of my only wheelie hit. I go out there, do a wheelie hit, and I knew enough to go up on the car first, back up, and then go up and hit it. I parked for my wheelie hit, and that got the nerves out. The butterflies were gone. I felt more comfortable, more confident. Not at all like someone that's a veteran or anything, but I mean, I didn't have the nervous shakes and all that like that. So went out for racing against Mike, and broke the truck on the line. And that was my driving career. My driving career can fit in a nutshell.
So, you mentioned, you got furloughed from Bigfoot because of COVID, and then eventually, like you mentioned, you met your now bosses at a random truck stop. How did that happen? Like, tell me about that story, because that's kind of interesting.
So, like I said, I was working for United Rentals, running a flatbed, delivering rental systems for shoring to different job sites for our customers. I'm coming back from somewhere in Western Ohio, might have been Indianapolis. One of our welders wanted me to stop at the Love's truck stop out in Springfield and pick something up for him. And I was notorious that I did not stop at truck stops to get fuel. I would stop at Speedways, Sheets to get my
Shout
fuel
out
because
Sheets.
got to get my Sheets MTO order ready to go. Because I could get in, get the fuel, and get out without all the headache of waiting for somebody ahead of me at the truck stops. He asked me to pick something up from Love's. I was like, all right, I'll swing by. I parked in, and I walk in. And from the distance, I saw, all these guys in these black T-shirts walking together. I was like, oh, well, yeah, whatever. Didn't even think anything of it. And I walk in, and as soon as I got to the doors, right there was Tim. And I was like, oh, hey, how's it going? And he was about as surprised to see me as I was to see him. We talked a little bit, and he brought up if I was, interested at all in getting back into the game. And yes, I was, but at the same time, I just got word that my United Rentals branch was closing over the summer, and they didn't have another branch for me to transfer to within a decent distance of where I lived. I was already driving an hour one way to work. I wasn't going to be driving an hour and 45 minutes into work. So Tim and I went back and forth a little bit here and there about, what he was looking for, what I was looking for. And like I said, we went back and forth on it, and eventually we agreed to it. He was a very busy person, a very busy man running that team. But at the same time, in that same time frame, he lost his mom. The brothers, we all know they had to miss a Monster Jam because of it. And so I was not pushing it at all. I was like, no, you guys take care of what you got to take care of first. I've got months until I need to go somewhere. So I think that was like in January, maybe February. But we eventually were able to get back together, and in May of, I think it was May of this year, I loaded up my little car I had at the time and cruised on out here to Central Illinois. Ended up starting there and definitely having a really good time so far.
And before we ask our last final questions, I got to thank another commercial break, and that will be Nick Davis and Back Channel Productions. He has been doing some cool mud racing videos, and pretty soon I think he's going to get the back and running on a couple summer events. So here is Nick Davis and Back Channel Productions. Thank you for what you have done, spending also a 10-year anniversary for this year. So here we go. So thank you once again to Nick Davis and Back Channel Productions on what they have done. Thank you again, another 10 years, and just be on the lookout on YouTube, Back Channel Productions. So Drew, you join our team, being that you have to say being part of 4 of probably the biggest monster truck teams and organizations in the world in your career path of monster trucking has to be pretty cool. Going from Feld, doing the Gravedigger ride truck deal, learning the ins and outs of the legendary Mike Vaughters, being, a corporation also with Bigfoot, now back to a corporation technically with Hall Brothers Racing, dealing with Ram trucks, the professionalism, the borderline between, what people think of us being, hey, how you guys doing? Yeah. Monster truck or redneck monster truck too, like NASCAR, IndyCar. We're right there. You could see it compared to other things. But you're dealing with corporations and high people that don't know anything about what monster trucks is, but we're here to show them what's going on. So with that, being part of so many great companies in the industry, um, that got a little bit pinch you for a little bit, knowing that you were part of some of the, iconic teams in the world.
Yeah, it does. It's definitely, I didn't really think about it too much till you just mentioned it now that I really have worked for, the four of the biggest names out there. They've been doing it the longest. I mean, the brothers with Hall Brothers have been doing it for since 1987,
Yep.
so 37 years. Um, Mike's been doing it for ever, since the early 80s, so he's
Just as long.
just as long. And then Bigfoot celebrating their 50th anniversary this year. So I mean, think about it. The teams that I've worked for, well over 100 years of monster truck experience, and that's a lot of knowledge in my short 13-year career to try and absorb. Um, Coming over to Hall Brothers is like I knew the corporate aspect of it by doing a lot of the Firestone things with Bigfoot, doing some of the Hot Wheel stuff with them, and coming into it with Hall Brothers, it was all that and more. Being that since I've been here, we've shot 2 television commercials for Ram trucks. The one that's got released over the summer, and then the most recent one with Terry Crews for the college football stuff. Going to all these different Ram dealers that we go to, even going up to I've been able to go to, I think, 2 corporate events so far up in the Detroit area for the Salinas group. These are things that I've never done before, so I went into them not knowing at all what to expect, and they're really, really neat events that we do. And I mean, I can't say thank you enough for the opportunity to be able to do this. It's definitely different, but in a good way. It's we all see monster trucks and think it's the we all sit on TV thinking it's Monster Jam, and it's not. That's only a small percentage of what is done, especially with Hall Brothers, because we're doing, like I said, the corporate things, the dealerships. Over this towards the later part of the summer, go down to one of the Holly Fests for Mo Party. We got down there and got to run down the drag strip with a monster truck. It is, we're not out there racing every weekend, but we're out there doing something cool, something different every weekend.
And I think that's what sets Hall Brothers apart from other teams, because with Hall Brothers, you guys are doing so many different things. You're doing displays, you're doing stuff at the college football, big, games and stuff. You're doing the state fairs, and that's where I got to meet you, Drew, is at the California State Fair. I think it was Sacramento. It just so happened I was driving back from my trip in the States and passing to Sacramento, and I met up with you guys. And it just seems like with Hall Brothers, and with Ram, the partnership, everybody's all in. And I love seeing what all you guys are doing, and it's such a unique team. I think you guys are one of the only teams in the industry that does stuff like this.
As far as I know, we are the only team that does things like this. That was right. Yeah, it was California State Fair. We were out there for 2 weeks with Ram trucks at the Ram trucks booth, where you could go for a ride on the Ram terrain test track. And then, go from one of those trucks and come right onto the ride truck. And we took you for a lap around the outside of this little, I think it was a rodeo arena.
Yeah.
On the fairgrounds there. And we did that 12 hours, 12 hours, 7 days a week for 2 weeks straight. And it was, It was definitely.
It was hot.
It was hot. It was, July, California. It was, I think, 110 degrees almost every day. Um, I was only there for a little more than a week of that. I ended up having to fly out to go do some other dealership things. Um, but then I flew back, and I think it was already done when I got back. I just had to bring the truck back home. And then on that same trip coming home, helped train one of our guys that just got his CDL. CDL school taught him how to drive the truck, but he didn't know how to do it safely. So, here's how you go down hills and things like that.
And also, thank you, Drue, for what you have done today. Anything that people can follow you on social media?
I'm not super active on social media. I do have an Instagram. I don't think I've updated it in a while, but it's I believe it's Mankind, or I think it's
Yeah, I tagged you when I put up a post. I tagged you in it.
Okay. Yep, it's Mankind. I also, want to take a chance to say thank you for having me on your program here, Cheech. I know yesterday when you said, "Hey, do you want to be the guest?" I thought you were joking, and I didn't know you were serious till today. But guys, thank you for doing what you guys do, getting the name of the trucks out there, and keeping this industry, giving a different look into it, bringing different people on to your program that not everybody will know who they are, because I don't expect anybody to know who I am. I mean, I'm just a guy doing the thing.
Well, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 people watched you.
Well, hey, that's good.
I will say this: the picture that Cheech put up announcing the episode is the funniest picture. You look like you want to kill him.
Well, the picture beforehand was even worse.
The look on his face is like, I am going to kill you as soon as you took this camera off. But I will say this: I wanted to also thank you, Drue, because you guys were so good to me when I went to the state fair. You actually, you saw that I was struggling with the heat, and you gave me a Gatorade, and you guys were so good to me there. And I just wanted to thank you to you and Nathan and Levi for being so hospitable when I was there. So thank you.
Yeah, and I also want to say thank you to a couple people that's cool with you guys.
Yeah,
I guess.
All right, I know. During COVID, I never fully left. I kept doing this on a part-time basis. So I would help out, some guys here and there, and I want to say thank you to Corey and Jay Snyder and Preston. It was last summer I got to go on a mini tour with them. I want to say, thank you to Tim, and we lost him a couple years ago, but Tim and CJ Mente, great group of guys. I also want to thank Jeremy Gearhart and Gearhart's 4x4. When I landed during COVID in Ohio, I wasn't that far from his shop, and popped in, and we ended up doing a bunch of things. We actually promoted a few of our own shows, and I can't thank him enough for keeping me on my feet and guided when I was going through some, struggling with it. I might not be coming back to this. So thank you to all those guys.
Well, thank you. And Brad, yours?
Yeah, you can follow me at the Only Monster Truck and Ucker, Shaw Speed Design Co. Again, if you guys want to see some cool crush this stuff, let us know what you guys want. It's all up to you guys. We want merch that caters to you guys. So just let us know what you want to see. Cool news that got announced here in Canada. There is the Monster Madness group, Edge Motorsports, Ralph Moore. They just announced a stadium show in Ontario next year. So I wanted to plug that. a lot of cool stuff happening with Canadian monster trucks. A lot of the Outlaws of Motorsports group are doing their winter tour, which I'll be at the Edmonton date, and more Canadian monster truck stuff. We need it out here. It's winters suck, so watch more monster trucks and support Canadian monster trucks. And what about you, Teach?
We kind of need next year if a Canadian monster truck guy makes it to the, as not you, but inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, we need to get, Chris Orell, I think he was a pioneer for monster trucks in Canada. I think he'd be a good person to get in there. I'm trying to think of somebody else, but I feel
Don Frankish.
John Frankish, pioneering a lot of stuff for 3D bodies. Look what he did with Jurassic Attack.
But he is also the one where if there was a person that had a name with the American people from Canada, was Don.
Yeah.
Before Lindsay Wink and all them, because they all came from his camp before they started driving for, Cretan Monster Jam and stuff like that.
Another name, Marvin Anderson. That'd be another great name in there. He was a pioneer in monster trucks in Canada as well. So there's quite a good amount of people that could, Canadians that can go in the Hall of Fame. But what about you, Cheech? What about social media for you, my friend?
I don't have it no more.
Oh, you got rid of it. Mm-hmm. So there's no Dan or Dan, Cheech, Agosh, 10.
They're imposters.
They're all imposters.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't run it no more. No. Hey, Levi, turn off my social medias. Okay. Thank you. No, you can go to mt_Dan_Agosh 28 on Instagram, Dan Agosh 10 on TikTok, Dan Cheech Agosh on Facebook, Crush This on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Also, once again, go to our spread shop. So we're on there too. So next week's guest is going to be a TBA. Lately it's been like that because we're just trying to get stuff figured out. But the week, I'll try to get a guest on the week after. I won't be on because I'll be at home in West Virginia for Thanksgiving. So, we may do a recording. I'll probably get to it. I'm just going to say this. We're off the week of American Thanksgiving. I'll probably get a recording done.
We could do it under the hang with me as well.
Hang with Brad. It's up to you. Yeah. I was just trying to give you maybe a freedom to catch up on something or something like that. But if you want to do that, that's more well. How about this, Brad? That's your call.
Yeah.
So we'll just put a episode in the barrel. But if you say, hey, I'm just going to do a hangout with Brad.
Yeah.
Do that.
And I also kind of want to mention this here, guys. There is a chance during the podcast next year, you won't see quite a bit of me. I'm just
kidding.
I know you're kidding.
Do it, Brad.
No, I'm going to college next year. I'm finally taking a graphic design course.
Like that Robert De Niro movie where he goes back to college.
Yep. I'm
finally the Rodney Dangerfield movie.
Oh yeah,
good old Rodney Dangerfield. But I am taking a graphic design course for the next 2 years at my local college, or now it's Polytechnic School.
Basically, your shit. You're just getting
there's things that I don't know, like a lot of stuff with Adobe Illustrator. Like I'm self-taught, believe it or not, for the last 16 years. And I used Photoshop for not a lot of that time, but Illustrator is what I need to learn. And Mike Arndt and other people have helped me get to where I'm at with Illustrator, but I want to be better. I also want to learn 3D modeling, color theory, a lot of things that people don't think about when it comes to graphic design. And so, unfortunately, with some of how the classes are laid out, Tuesday nights I'll be at school. But the plan is to hopefully do some pre-recorded episodes with me and Cheech. So you'll still get a bit of the Canucker from here and there. But a lot of the stuff during first quarter is going to be with Cheech. I might jump in if I can. But I want to better myself, and this is how I'm going to do it. I know I've made a lot of mistakes with graphic design, dropped the ball on a lot of stuff. And to those people, I'm sorry. I own up to my mistakes. I screwed up, but I'm human. I'm trying to be better every day. And this is a part of me wanting to chase this as my dream, right? This is what I want to do. This is how I want to pay my bills. And, spending the money that, thank goodness for student loans, but spending this money is how I'm going to chase that. So I wanted to put that out there. So again, next year, you'll still be seeing the Canucker, just a little bit less of me.
His facial expressions while you were talking the whole time is like, I just wanted you talking in the background while everyone was looking at Vandal. I was like, oh man, that was funny.
That was great.
But once again, guys, thank you so much for everything you guys have done, celebrating 10 years of the Curtis the Monster Truck podcast. And Brad, close her out.
All right, guys, make sure you check out with your friends and family. Mental health is a very important thing. I talked about my journey with mental health. If you want more episodes on that, check out our show with Austin Spence and Mike Nugent. And bring in your pets. As Cheech always says at the end, it's getting colder out now. Bring in your pets. Make sure they're staying warm inside. Donate blood. And guys, until next week's episode, keep the rubber side down and the shiny side up, everybody. Peace.
Hang 10.
You haven't pressed it.